The beginning of the movie unfolds in a night metropolis. On one of the roofs of high-rise buildings, Nikki Spurgeon stands pensively. The hero returns indoors and talks to someone on the phone. Having dinner at an expensive restaurant, Nikki carefully watches the visitors. The hero's attention is attracted by a pretty blonde sitting next to an elderly man. Soon the girl sits down at the table to Nikki and asks to pretend to be her boyfriend. The hero agrees and gets acquainted with Jess Barrett. The dinner goes quite pleasantly, and the girl offers Nikki to escort her to her hotel room. Entering the room, the hero decides to get to know Jess better. Suddenly, an armed man bursts into the room. Jess frightenedly says that it is her husband, Jared. The man begins to threaten Nikki, but the hero behaves very calmly because he realizes that all this is a scam. And he realized it even when Jess stole a wallet from an elderly man. The hero leaves, but before doing so, giving the newcomers advice on how to improve their scam scheme. Jess soon leaves the hotel as well. Nikki follows the girl and suggests they go in for a coffee somewhere. The hero goes with Jess to the bar and tells her that his father and grandfather were also con artists and once had to use Toledo's emergency button. In doing so, one of the partners injures the other to ward off suspicion. In the process, Nikki's grandfather is killed. Jess asks to teach her the art of pickpocketing, and the hero agrees. The main thing, Nikki says, to use during the theft is a trick. After that, the hero successfully steals Jess's wristwatch. The girl laughs and says she didn't even feel it. Nikki pulls out other trophies and informs that Jess thinks with her hands, but in fact it is necessary to get into the head of the victim and anticipate her actions. The hero advises to distract the victim's attention and asks the girl to take care of herself. The action is transferred to New Orleans. There, Nikki meets Horst. Shortly afterward, the hero attends a horse race and then has dinner at a restaurant. Unexpectedly, Jess approaches him. At the cost of great efforts, the girl managed to find Nikki in the South and also learn his nickname, Zephyr. Jess asks the man very much to take her into the team so that she can learn and become a professional. Nikki pretends that there is no way she would agree to this, but then still allows the girl to get involved in the case. Jess gets to know Horst, as well as Gareth and the other members of the team. Before the first case, Horst tries to explain to the girl all the subtleties of the work, but realizes that it is useless and asks her to be on guard. Jess is dressed in a smart dress with a neckline to distract people's attention. At a large festival, Nikki's team commit multiple pickpocketing. While one distracts, the other takes valuables. Jess pulls it off brilliantly, utilizing Nikki's lessons. The hero keeps a fairly watchful eye on everything from the balcony. He remains satisfied with his student. The next lesson takes place at a major hotel. Nikki tells her that there are different caliber of crooks working here. Someone pretends to be a poker beginner and then uses special lenses to make a profit. Someone also steals wallets and other valuables. You can often find a scheme with an angry husband, which Jess tried to ineptly apply. Bars are also crawling with crooks. More often than not, they work in groups to avoid exposing the scheme. That's where Jess and Nikki's team have their second lesson. The girl also learns about a scheme with ATMs, which was developed by the hero's friend Farhad. After the thefts, Nikki brings Jess to their office, where there is a mass sorting of things, and then their sale. The hero assures that such a small, yet constant income in their sphere is much safer than large scams, which always attract attention. Passion flares up between Nikki and the girl. The hero cautiously offers to give her a ride to her new apartment, and Jess agrees. However, at the last moment, Nikki changes his mind and offers the girl to go by cab. But in the evening, the hero still decides to visit Jess and spends an unforgettable night with her. In the afternoon, a new scam takes place. Farhad pretends that he became ill, and Nikki's people meanwhile steal from the frightened visitors of the cafe. The week's work comes to an end. Nikki announces that tomorrow, all the evidence will be destroyed, and the workers will get their money. At night, the hero says that in his many years of work, he has never met anyone as capable as Jess. Nikki says that his father called him Zephyr for being too soft. The next day, together with Jess, the hero goes to the game. The girl is not particularly interested in following what is happening on the field, so Nikki offers to analyze the behavior of fans and make a bet. Li Yuan joins their fun game. The bets start to increase and are connected with what is happening on the field. The gambling Li Yuan asks Nikki not to leave because he really wants to play with someone. The hero also raises the stakes to $50,000. Jess asks him to come to his senses, believing that it is reckless and dangerous to gamble such large sums. Nikki loses, visibly nervous, and raises the bet again to $100,000. Li Yuan doesn't believe the hero has that kind of money, but he proves otherwise. Jess asks Nikki to stop. However, this loss forces the hero to bet $1 million. Li Yuan agrees to this as well, clearly amused by what is happening. But this time, the bet is not on what is happening on the field. Each player has to pick up the deck and show a card. And this time, Nikki loses. The hero is about to leave, but then returns and doubles the bet. Nikki asks Li Yuan to point to a random player on the field, and the hero will have to guess his number. The opponent disagrees, and thinks that Nikki has no chance of winning, and tries to cheat. Then, the hero proposes the following. Li Yuan names a player, but the number is guessed not by him, but by Jess. Nikki talks to the girl, who is very nervous, and asks her to leave her alone. Li Yuan is amused when he hears this, and says that he picked the player. Suddenly, Jess spots Farhad on the field and says his number. Li Yuan loses, but remains thrilled to have such an incredible game. Getting into a cab, Nikki tells her that it was a very famous player. Since the morning, Li Yuan had seen the number 55 everywhere, and it was acting on his subconscious mind. In addition, he had even heard this number. Everything was perfectly set up and planned. Li Yuan even saw Farhad on that day, and that's why he chose him. The hero says that Jess was a blind mouse in this scam to make it more convincing. Nikki reacts dryly to the kiss and asks the cab to stop. Hero gives Jess the money and leaves, ending their relationship. Soon, Nikki receives an order from a famous person. The owner of the racing team, Rafael Garriga, spent a lot of money on the development of a super-fast bolide, but the man wants his victory to be 100%, so Nikki must contact Garriga's opponent McEwen and indoctrinate him with false information. The hero is going to pretend to be an engineer who was recently fired. At the meeting, in addition to Garriga, is also present skeptical Owens. The plan is for Nikki to come to Garriga's party in the evening. The hero makes an agreement with the bartender, and he promises to pour him only water. Nikki pretends to drink heavily, starts to behave noisily, and attracts attention. The plan begins to move towards its climax, but the hero suddenly notices Jess, who has apparently become Garriga's girlfriend. Nikki goes outside to calm down. The girl finds him there and tells him she's done with scams. The hero decides to have a real drink, but in all the bars there is only water waiting for him. Nikki does find a drink, but Owens finds him. The man criticizes the hero and advises him to do what he got here for. Nikki changes the plan slightly, attacking Garriga. Owens takes him out of the bar and says that from emotion, the hero is a little too much. But everything goes right, as it's a confrontation that McEwen notices. His assistant gives Nikki a card with an invitation to lunch. While talking to McEwen, the hero is constantly distracted by Raphael and Jess. Nikki decides to talk to the girl, but Jess asks her to leave her alone. The deal with McEwen is almost finalized. Nikki's deception works, and the man is ready to buy the secret development for $3 million. Jess notices an elderly woman who has dropped her purse and decides to return it to the lady. However, it turns out to be Nikki's decoy. The hero tries to convince Jess to run away with him, but she escorts him out and refuses. The girl asks him not to bother her with such tricks anymore, because they won't work. Nikki still does not give up and brings Farhad. The man talks to Jess and explains that earlier, the hero was only afraid of his feelings, but in fact he treasures her. The girl does not believe it, because once Nikki treated her terribly. Then, Farhad shows Jess a box. In it lies a piece of jewelry, which the girl liked very long ago. The hero did not allow the girl to take it away, but he kept it for a long time and waited for the right occasion. This convinces Jess, and the girl goes to meet Nikki. However, despite all the attempts of persuasion, Jess does not agree to stay with the hero and says that she has to go. A car suddenly stops in front of the girl. Nikki sadly lets Farhad realize that the case is lost. However, the hero then finds a crying Jess in front of his room. In the morning, Nikki again asks the girl to go with him. Owens unexpectedly knocks on the room, and Jess tries to hide from him. The girl manages to move to another balcony. Soon Owens calms down and is about to leave. At the meeting with McEwen, Nikki gets her money and unprecedented praise. The hero reports the success to Garriga and suggests Jess to meet at 7. After that, Nikki copies the information about the car on a flash drive and sells it to many racing teams. In the evening, the hero waits a long time for Jess, and finally she comes. Meanwhile, Garriga's man buys strange substances at the pharmacy. After securing himself, he crashes into Nikki's car. The hero realizes that he has been exposed. Garriga becomes furious as Nikki sold the real secret development to all the teams. The man wants to know how the hero knew his password, which changes every 15 minutes, and tortures Jess. Nikki reveals that he used the girl, tricked her by lying about feelings, and thus got the password. Jess cries, feeling betrayed again. The jewelry had a special device on it that allowed them to find out the password and log in when Jess returned to Garriga's hotel room. Nikki asks to let the girl go, as she didn't know anything about it. Garriga starts laughing and says that Jess wasn't his girlfriend and couldn't have entered the room. She was only hanging around the man the whole time. Nikki starts to fight with the girl, not understanding how she could have tricked him. Jess admits that she originally wanted to steal the expensive watch. Nikki promises to tell the truth when Garriga lets the girl go. Suddenly, Owens shoots the hero. Jess tries to help him. Garriga is shocked by such an act and tries to leave as soon as possible so as not to be involved. Owens doesn't understand why Jess won't let him near Nikki and then explains that he's on Nikki's team. The man sympathizes, as Jess was clearly very scared. It was actually Toledo's emergency button, and Owens, or Bucky, is Nikki's father. The man takes the money and says he left the hero because he loved him. Jess takes Nikki to the hospital and asks her to trust her. This is the end of the movie. Thank you all for watching this video to the end. Give this video a like. Write in the comments what you think about this movie, and see you in new videos.